Welcome to the Garage Network podcast. Join us and the occasional special guest as we discuss everything automotive, from fixing cars as a technician, owning an automotive workshop or business, overall work-life balance, and even the occasional laugh. In this episode of TGN Talks, we were lucky enough to be joined by Brandon Steckler. Brandon is not only a technician, but is also a trainer in the automotive industry. We get to learn a little bit about why he became a tech, also about some challenges that he's seeing in the automotive industry, and something that we should be looking out for as well. So we hope that you guys enjoy it.
Rightio. All right. Good day, guys. How are we? So today we've got a very special guest, Mr. Brandon Steckler. Is that correct, haven't I?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And obviously we've got our special
Well,
guest.
it's today for me, but it's tomorrow for you.
That's right. We do live in the future. So if you need lottery numbers or anything like that, let us know. We can set something up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome, Brandon.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, if we're looking a little bit dazing of you guys, it's a bit early in the morning to get through this time zone difference. So
Sorry, mate.
Yeah, he'll be all right. What's that, your third coffee?
No, second. But yeah, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Right, yeah. So I think we've got what kind of interesting little conversation today we've got lined up with you today, Brandon. I think it's going to be cool to allow our listeners, watchers, depending on how they're watching this, a bit of an insight into a bit more about who you actually are and what you've been doing for the last few years.
Excellent. Well, like you guys, I am a technician through and through. I've been a tech for about 22 years. So I've been in the trenches a long time, relatively speaking, and I got my butt kicked a lot. And about halfway through my career, I realized I wasn't doing things the way I should have been doing. And I came in contact with a very special person who really changed the way I see and do things. And it's all about mastering the basics. It really is. I know it's cliche, and we hear that in every class we go to master the basics. And, nobody wants to step back and say, I really don't want to learn some advanced techniques. I just want to learn basic stuff. But the understanding that I gained is once those basic concepts became mastered, I didn't have to think about them anymore. They were just second nature. So once I began focusing on what some might refer to as advanced tools and techniques, it became a lot easier to focus on.
So when you say you met someone, do you have like a bit of a mentor, someone like that? Is that what you're saying? Like in
I do.
Early pages? Yeah, okay.
Yep. The man's name's Jim Morton, and he's an absolute icon over here in the United States. Yeah. And he taught me everything I needed to know about learning, if that makes sense. He taught me how to learn.
Yeah, cool.
It's a really good skill. It's a bit of a skill actually, having understanding how to learn something. I think it's a pretty important skill to have.
The takeaway for me out of all that was the fact that learning how to learn, as silly as that sounds, it allows me to figure things out so I don't have to memorize them. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can always figure things out on the spot rather than trying to remember everything I've learned in a classroom. Yeah,
that's actually a really sharp point. That's excellent.
Thank you.
And what was your drive to sort of want to become a tech? Was there something that you always thought, yep, I love working with cars, or was that just fell into it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, I did kind of fall into it. When I was a kid, I used to mess around a lot on dirt bikes, off-road motorcycles. And I still do. I love them. Yeah. But me and all my friends used to ride them, and naturally comes working on your own bike. So I started off at a small vocational technical school in high school, working on small engines, chainsaws and weed trimmers and lawnmowers. And eventually I wanted to get a job making money because our school would allow us to go out and work half the day and go to school half the day, even as a child. So they told me if I wanted to do that, I had to get a job in a shop that supported what I was learning in school in that small engine class. And I couldn't find anything. So I transitioned into automotive so I can go work at an oil change, a quick lube facility. And I just progressed from there. I took an interest, and they wanted me to get certified to do safety inspections. And then, step by step, I just transitioned into a role as a technician.
Yeah, I think that's a really common transition. Like I again started with motorbikes as well. And if you just want to learn how to fix your stuff that you've broken first, and
Yeah,
and then that excites the especially when you've got no money to get it paid.
it's true.
There's nothing like pulling something apart when you're a kid and having a bucket full of bolts left over.
I need them.
Absolutely, 100% on spot on.
Yeah.
And then riding the bike going, geez, it doesn't feel right.
It's a bit rattly.
Not right. Something's really not right. I think I remember where they go now. Hang on.
But it's okay if I keep it under 80. Yeah.
That right?
So can I ask, I'm gonna take you back a little bit there. So like the basics you're talking about are like can you elaborate a bit more on what just for people?
Absolutely. Here's where it hit me. If you wouldn't mind, I'd just tell you a short story to help solidify what I'm going to try to answer your question with, Mike. I was very, very good at what I did at the Honda dealership because that's all I worked on. And I used to think I was a very skilled technician. What really was the truth was that I was very familiar with what I was working on. And I knew that to be true because a lot of times when I went to evaluate something like a blower motor that became inoperative, I already knew the color of the wires I was going to be testing at. So I was very good at fixing Hondas and figuring out what was wrong with them. Well, I took the opportunity to transition into an independent shop, kind of like how you guys function. And when I had that first Volvo in front of me, or Saab, or BMW, I didn't have a clue. So I wasn't a very good technician. And that was a real kick in the pants for me. That was a real, down moment. I didn't feel good about myself then, but it prompted me to take a different path and learn. And when it comes to mastering the basics, instead of learning why this car has a misfire, because it's common on a Honda to have this problem or that problem, I learned how an ignition coil functions. A step-up transformer. In other words, we can only make spark one way. We've got to induce a voltage, and it's got to be high energy. To do that, it takes a step-up transformer. That's the 85%, right? 85% of all the stuff that happens on cars happens like that. The 15% is what we have to research depending on the car we work on. So what am I talking about? We can have a 2-wire coilover plug setup, a 3-wire, a 4-wire, a distributor, something with an optical pickup, something with a distributorless ignition system.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So my point is, I want to master the physics involved, DC motors, operation of a solenoid, Lenz's law, Ohm's law, Faraday's law. And when I say memorizing the laws, I don't mean word for word. I don't mean memorize a paragraph of words. Make sense of it. When I say Ohm's law, I don't care about the verbiage. I want to know how current flow relates to voltage and resistance. And when one goes up and the other remains the same, the other one goes down. Faraday's law, how an inductive device takes on energy and how that current flow is transitioned into magnetism, and how that magnetism is transitioned back into electricity. So we have that inductive kick that we desire. Those are the things I want to master, because no matter what we're working on, guys, whether it's the latest Lamborghini or a 1932 Marmon, right? A spark is a spark.
Yeah, and they're all the same.
Yeah, they're all the same.
The physics behind all of it is all exactly the same.
So that's exactly that. If I have the physics understood, if I have the proper tools to evaluate the system, and I have information like wiring diagrams or system description and operation, what can't we fix?
Absolutely.
A toaster oven, a curling iron, or a Black Hawk helicopter, right?
Yeah.
If we have those three, we're okay.
So I'm so glad you articulated that way, because I've been trying to explain. I had this conversation with Mike before. I've been like teaching an apprenticeship program over the last year and a half, let's say. And to teach that, I had to go back on my basics and understand Faraday's law again, understand Ohm's law, because I'll be honest, I'd forgotten it, because everything's amp clamp this, amp clamp that. So you sort of forget to use all those basic laws. Once I went back and re-understood it, it was like a light bulb, like, oh yeah, that's how it works again. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
It has
it's
absolutely, it's absolutely changed the way I diagnose cars by remembering the stuff that we got taught in the first year of my apprenticeship.
You know something? I'm glad you brought that up because you just reminded me of a point I wanted to make, if you don't mind.
There you go.
I actually recall being 18 years old and learning about these laws, but having them go in one ear and out the other. And I memorized them to pass a test.
Absolutely.
But I realized I wasn't learning properly. It didn't make sense to me. I was just remembering it. Now it makes sense, and everything's, I'll say it's easy to fix cars now. It's challenging, but it's not impossible anymore,
A few things stay in your mind. Was his lenses left-hand rule, the L.
Yep.
The way the Y. Sorry.
Hey, does the toilet water really go backwards in Australia when you flush it?
Yeah, but we've got an inverter in there that spins it back the right way. But one thing I did notice when I went to the US, our cars are actually faster in Australia. Did you know that?
Or what, fast?
Faster than the American ones, yeah, because I think when you're traveling 60 miles an hour, we go 100 kilometers an hour. So, I mean, bigger number. So our car's faster.
Potentially.
Yeah.
100, that is 60, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now I got your joke.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I had to think about it for a minute.
Yeah.
Costa, that one went over my head too. It's too early in the morning.
Yeah, sorry,
I get it
mate.
now. Well, no, degrees Fahrenheit and Celsius. Somebody
That's
says
right.
it's 35, I'm grabbing a sweater and you guys are grabbing a cocktail.
Yeah, it's cooler here. It's cooler here.
Yeah, it's cool here.
It's only
40 degrees. It's only 40 degrees in summer, not 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I look. Yeah, once you understand the physics of a lot of those components, you realize that they transition. That they just get designed slightly different, and they all have their own little. Like you said, that 15% difference is the manufacturing difference and the people.
Heck, we can read about that.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh no, and you can probably even look at the device and understand that.
Sure.
Once you understand the physics behind how it works, you can look at it and go, yeah, that one, we know we're going to have, a solenoid's going to have two wires and power's going to go in one side and it's going to be ground on the other, and it's going to move there's a magnet in there and there's a core in there and it's going to move.
Mm-hmm.
There's windings. It's going to have resistance. If it doesn't, you got a problem.
Yep, understanding that stuff really helps complete diagnoses. I've had a Chrysler, like a Dodge Fiat Chrysler vehicle here in the States with a transmission issue. The powertrain control module was setting a DTC for a low reverse solenoid, and understanding Faraday's law and reading. It was determined that diagnosis is determined by the PCM by watching the inductive kick. So simply using a scope and monitoring the voltage signature when that magnetic field collapsed for the solenoid, I could see that when I induced, voltage, I energized it and de-energized it, I had a nice kick. But when I let the PCM do it, it wasn't good enough. So it was a bad driver in the PCM. It wasn't providing the proper ground path. We didn't have enough magnetism. And since we didn't have the voltage, the inductive kick necessary, it set the code. So it made it easy to understand that. Simply doing an ohms test across you wouldn't find a problem.
Yes. Yeah.
It makes so much sense when you understand, the basic stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah. And so that was my new lease on life. When I learned how to learn, I approached every vehicle differently, and work actually became fun. It became, like a video game for me. It wasn't
well, it's far more fun. Yeah, it's much more fun when you're not getting your ass kicked every day, isn't it?
Oh God, that knot I had in my stomach every day. What's going to happen now?
Yeah, absolutely.
What am I going to break?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before, obviously, you would have started quite young, working on those motorbikes. Was there anything else that you wanted to do besides be a tech, or was that always your thing?
Once I was getting serious about college, it was my last year or two of high school, and I started to really think about my future. I was concerned with money. So I wanted to make sure I did something I liked, but also was able to make some money. So I decided I wanted to go into automotive engineering. And then it was pretty much last moment I decided, I've got no business engineering something if I don't even understand. You know what I mean? So I wanted to get in on the technical side first. And I figured I'll just transition into engineering later, but I never did.
Don't we all? I thought that as well. At one point, I will become an engineer. And I was like, probably not now. Yeah. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. This will do.
Yep. That's exactly what happened with me.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, you become a mechanic and you curse the engineers so much. Who the hell designed this damn thing? Like,
I don't want to be one of them.
The dark side. Yeah.
Why couldn't you give me access, you bloody buggers, So.
But think about it. If you become an engineer, you could potentially be the one that changes it all. You can start.
And I thought about that too.
Yeah, you can start putting starter motors in places they're meant to be. You can start putting alternatives where they're accessible. Imagine the lives you'll change.
Mm-hmm. A lever you pull and the engine falls out of the bottle.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
That's cool.
Now, probably a question that I have more on the technical side. So obviously, you guys are doing some pretty cool stuff. We always, Mike and I always talk about, you guys over there in the States are sort of a bit ahead of us when it comes to technology. You're seeing problems and issues sort of before we see them. We look to you guys for a bit of to understand what we're expecting. Is there any challenges or hurdles that you guys are seeing now with the newer cars? And keeping in mind, data sharing is something that we are slowly getting. So we won't really have that till sort of early next year before we start getting access to dealer portals and all that sort of information as well.
Later next year.
Sorry?
Later next year. 1 July comes in, remember?
Yeah, 1st July. What did I say?
Early next year.
Early next year.
Yeah.
It's still early.
Well,
yeah.
I think some of our manufacturers here are in denial. I think they think that they're going to be able to come up with some idea to delay it. But anyway.
Pretty solid law, but anyways. What sort of challenges do you guys are seeing now, obviously, with the newer cars?
When gasoline direct injection came to be, we don't have the diesel platforms like you guys do.
Yeah, we've got a lot of diesel. We've got a lot of diesel.
We don't. We see diesel in a few of the European makes, mostly in the light duty pickup trucks to heavy duty, medium heavy duty trucks, but few and far between in the automotive. I'll say in the cars, right? Mm-hmm. Not too many diesel. So technicians being familiar with diesel is a bit of a challenge over here, I'd say. Another one, gasoline direct injection, of course, has been out for 20 something years now, but we're just starting to see over, I'd say the last 10 years, the effects of moving that port injector away from the back of the valve into the cylinder and the effects the carbon has on drivability. Technicians yielding the information from the scan tool data to make diagnostic decisions. I think that they're still lacking in that. If they fix it, it's a guess. You know what I mean? Let's try this and see what happens. Hybrid electric vehicles, they're coming. They're coming and they'll be here to stay. So we really have to get on the ball with our technicians understanding hybrid electric vehicle functionality and the safety aspects of service and repair. But again, scan tool data analysis, I think that's always been an issue and it still is. And technicians truly do not know how to yield the information from these scan tools. I mean, capitalize them and use them for their full functionality, graphing capabilities and things like that. So much can be learned simply by how you view the data. And I like the scan tool to tell a story. once upon a time this happened, and as a result that happened. I want my scan tool captures. I should be able to pass them off to you and tell you, Costa, I've got this running issue. Take a look at this. What do you think's wrong with the car? And you should be able to read that data without driving the car and see the problem and understand what's wrong. Getting technicians to capture data in that aspect is still a challenge, and it's simply because they don't know. They never learned. But to answer your question, I think hybrid EV vehicles, battery electric vehicles, that's something that's going to be a challenge, and we have to get technicians up to speed because it's coming. That and ADAS, right? ADAS systems. Many shops. My old shop I used to work at, I was just speaking with him. He called and asked the same question, Brandon, what's coming up? What do I got to get ready for? And I told him ADAS. He goes, I've got somebody that'll do that. I said, that's great, but we're talking about you do an alignment, right? You change the wheel alignment. These things have to be calibrated. You lean in on a hood and you displace the bumper and move the grill. Well, that's got to be, everything's got to be recalibrated, and you can't work around that. So you have to be prepared, and that's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars in a week. You're going to be farming out to another shop when you can capitalize on it, make money. So don't be scared, embrace it.
So I've had very similar conversations recently where we've had guys like, I'm just going to not do that. Someone else will do that. And it's not going to affect my work. Well, when it comes to where are we going to start drawing the line? Like when you can't do a control arm replacement, when you can't do this super basic stuff without understanding ADAS, what's your shop going to end up doing? What are you going to be offering as a part of mechanical? Are you going to become a lube shop? That's it.
I'll put things into perspective for you. Years ago, when computerized fuel injection first came to be, we're talking about the late 80s, there was very experienced technicians who worked on carburetors for decades, said, once this computer's hit, I'm out of here. I'm not working on cars anymore. Well, I'll only work on the carbureted cars. Well, where's a carbureted car?
They're gone.
So
sorry, what's the carburetor? Exactly.
Right. But the point is, ADAS is mandatory, and it's going to become more and more mandatory.
Yeah.
More of these ADAS features are going to be available on even the base cars. It's the law. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration mandates that these components be on the car because they save lives. It's just a fact.
I think same in Australia. I remember reading something that your crash avoidance is going to be a part of our Australian design rules. It's going to have crash avoidance of some sort, which means he has to have some sort of radar or ADAS thing happening there.
Yeah.
From your $15,000 car,
and
everything.
And when I say ADAS, I say that I use that word as like a big umbrella.
Yeah, same.
ADAS could be lane keep assist. It could be brake mitigation for cruise control. It could be rear cameras or parking sensors or something of that nature.
Well,
front and rear Doppler radar that's
LiDAR. Those are all ADAS features, and not every car will have every option.
Yeah.
But calibrations are going to be necessary.
Let's think about it, right? Even like the 5-year-old car now, if you're doing a radar, how many of them do you need a bumper off? There's so many headlights. Some of them you need the bumper off.
I want to point something out because I know this is going to happen. I see it happen here all the time, Costa and Mike. You're not always going to get a warning light. In other words, you're going to do the alignment and you're going to send the car down the road and you're going to go, well, there's no lights on. It must be okay. It means it's within the point that the car thinks it's okay. But the point is that camera isn't pointing here. It's pointing here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be passing another car on the highway. And all of a sudden it's going to slam on the brakes because it thinks something's approaching it head on.
Yeah.
That's going to be the complaint. The customer's going to come back. The car hits the brakes by itself for no reason. Well, it goes back on you, or vice versa. It's supposed to have brake mitigation, and it doesn't see the object heading towards it, and you crash into somebody. It's going to come right back on the last guy that worked on the car.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah, well, look, you guys people have got to remember that 1 degree out on a radar or 1 degree out on a device is 2.6 meters out at 100 meters. So exactly,
That's full lane.
This far across.
2.6 meters is about a standard width of a lane here in Australia.
Yeah, 8-10 feet somewhere.
And that's looking at the footpath, or it's looking at the lane next to it. So unless it's calibrated right, and the light won't come on.
Right.
And the number of panel beaters, and they are doing crash repairs and they are putting these things back together. Number of panel beaters that I hear go, no, there's no light on, we're not worried about it. Like you say that, and exactly the biggest, I guess the biggest thing for us is going to be a massive outlay and having the room. A lot of our workshops here in Australia are not like the workshop behind you there, Brandon. We're not that big and we don't have that room. So what ends up happening is, like, I've got 4 hoists and 4 bays. That's it. Like, and we don't have the room. And some of these new cars are needing 7 meters. Like the new Mazda BT50 to do the ADAS calibration is 7.5 meters in front of the car. You need to target.
We've got mobile guys. You know what I mean by mobile guys, right?
Yeah.
Mobile programmers and diagnosticians. They've branched out and they've purchased warehouses for rent with 3,000 square feet. And what they do is they call that their ADAS headquarters. So they drive around town and pick up cars and bring them back to their ADAS mobile headquarters. And they charge $500-600 US to calibrate these cars. But the point is, like you said, in a tight city, when there's nowhere to do it, and some of these static calibrations, you're kind of stuck. And I wonder, even now, some of our dealerships located in inner city where there's just no room to perform these calibrations, how they're doing it. I really don't know.
Well, that's concerning as well, because I've done it. I've done some ADAS training.
Yeah.
And I've seen like Toyota's printing out targets and sticking them on the wall, and read their ADAS calibration system is not nice and shiny and like even like the Autel or the Hella or the Bosch systems that are out there. They were very, very. I don't know if you've seen any of those, Brandon. The printing out targets and sticking them on a tripod or sticking them on a wall and then lining the car up with tape measures to actually get to calibrate some of these things. They're very, very archaic and very like, and you look at that type of the process that's associated with that from a dealership, you go, Jesus, the genuine tool is not as cool as, like, it's not as simple as think it's going to be. You know, like we've been screaming in Australia to get access to genuine software for a very long time and genuine information, and then when you see these 5 A4 pages of how to print out these targets and stick this thing together on a wall,
it's not so high tech.
A couple of tape measures, you just go, oh my god, this is what we've been asking for. This is pretty bad, you know. It's but it makes you wonder how accurate that's going to really be. There's no, compared to the equipment that's out there, like compared to some of these, you know, even if you look at, I think it's Autel's system that Scott Brown showed us some of the bits and pieces of, but the accuracy of some of their setup stuff with tape measures and jigs and getting everything square and is really, really good. Like compared to parking a car against a wall. Yeah. Where are you actually going to get it? You know,
hoping that wall's straight.
Yeah, and I've never met a builder that can get a straight wall.
Excellent point.
Yeah. I think there's definitely going to be some changes out there, but again, look, embrace them. I think if
that's it. Yeah, don't run from them because they're coming. You can't avoid it. You're going to have to do it at some point. Yeah, or you're going to be out of business.
Yeah, and you can't send. I was going to say you can't send the work away. Like you can't. Literally, customers are going to be waiting 2 or 3 days to get their car after you've done a water pump or a headlight load. Oh, because I've got to send it to an ADAS calibration center.
What if one of those centers is just too busy to do it? Yeah, because everybody else in town is sending.
100%. That happens. Like I know there was a mobile guy in Sydney doing ADAS cows next to my workshop where we were, and you wait in a couple of weeks because that's sort of CBD Sydney, right in the city centre, pretty much. Not many guys are doing them. He's the only guy around there, really. And you're waiting a couple of weeks to get your car in.
So
No.
you take a couple of days, fix a car, plus 2 weeks every time. It's a lot of time to be holding someone's car.
Yeah.
For a
It's a lot
headlight
of
load.
time. Yeah, for a headlight load. That'll be $3,000. Thanks. Yeah. No, it's cool. Some challenges, exciting stuff. Also, with the good points as well with the hybrid and the EV and the safety around that as well. I think that's very important. There's a saying that's stuck in my head from one of the EV training that we did. The gentleman, Scott Daly, is one of the trainers in Australia, does a bit of EV stuff. Well, a lot of stuff really. Was the one flash and your ash.
The what?
One flash and your ash when working on EV.
Oh, yeah, I
One
get
flash
it. Yeah.
and your ash, yeah. It's the accent. It's an Australian accent. It's a bit strange, I know.
No, I was thinking flash like J2534 flash.
Oh, no.
Like an electrical arc.
Electrical arc. There we go. That's
Yes,
better
gotcha.
technology. Yeah.
That doesn't rhyme though, so we got to go with the
Not as fun. Not as fun when you say it.
one arc in your bark.
Oh, that's a nice one.
I'm just
That's
kidding.
a nice
Yours
one.
is better.
Yeah, that's a nice one too. I like little sayings like that. It just helps me remember things.
Yep.
Helps me
Don't
remember
touch
things.
that.
Yeah, don't touch the orange wires. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, until it's been made intrinsically safe.
Yeah, correct. Look, I hope that the guys that are listening sort of take some of that on board. I mean, it is important, and we do have to be aware of it. We can't stick our head in the sand and hope it's going to go away. It's not. And I guess, look, and in saying that, people are in different times in their careers. I guess some people are going to, ride the wave, and it is what it is. But especially for the younger techs out there, I think it is important to embrace those things. I think Brandon's saying, learning how to learn, that is such a skill that if you can embrace that early on,
you'll transition. No, well, you'll that helps you. That helps you not be so afraid of what's going to happen. I'm happy to learn. I know how to learn. I'll learn technology and I'll learn the things, and that enables you to be able to adapt. I think that's a really, really good thing to take on board.
That's it. Technology is always going to be, and changing. And as long as we keep that attitude that we can learn, it's all it's all going to be applicable to everything we work on.
Any tips on learning? Do you have any little tips for that you use that helped you? Like, I have word association for me is the biggest thing. Like earlier, one flash, your ash. I find associating certain words with things just works well for me.
I certainly like to use analogies. So in other words, when I'm talking about, I became well known for in-cylinder compression testing. And one of the analogies I use is actually this right here. It's a syringe, and it reflects what actually happens in the cylinder. So when I start playing with this thing and feeling compression and leaks and the vacuum that occurs when I have a leak, I start to remember. So if I associate what I'm trying to learn with something that I already know, the transition's pretty simple. And so I learn about it initially. I continue to read and make analogies, and then I practice, but on known good vehicles. I'll take the time. And hey, we have to invest our own time. Work doesn't always end when the day's over. If we're going to spend some time, I've been known to spend entire Saturdays or stay late. I'll stay at the shop 4 or 5 extra hours, order a pizza, and have some fun with other technicians that want to learn. And we have a great time together, and we take notes, and it allows me to be better when a broken car comes in, because when you know what good looks like, bad sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's been my experience.
So can I ask, Brent, I wanted to ask you, this will segue into what we're going to do next year, but it's a little bit of an exciting
Announcement.
It's a bit of an announcement that's happening. I'd like to talk to you about, you guys in America use OBD2 data and instead of enhanced data on your scan tool a lot more than we do. Most techs here in Australia will select, and by saying that, for those that don't know, you'll go in your scan tool and you'll select the manufacturer and your model and not even touch OBD2 or OBD on your scan tool at all. That you guys in the States use OBD2 a lot more than we do. I noticed that in some training videos. What T-shirt are you wearing there, Brendan? I think you might be even on that.
I'm currently wearing a TST.
Yeah, it was their videos.
Really technician service training up in Bay of New York.
Yeah, so I think I was watching their videos, and they were using a lot of OBD2 data, and it was sort of like a light bulb moment for me, because once you start to use, and I've spoken about this on the Garage Network before, once we start to see values in this, like I use an analogy to say you've got two 2-liter motors, and even that are naturally aspirated, and you start to get some, looking at that OBD2 data, we start to see some of the things that will be exactly the same from manufacturer, because we are dealing with essentially an air pump in both made differently, but the physics is exactly the same. So some of the data that we'll be seeing from within OBD2, because it's in the same values, will look the same. So the problem will stand out much greater in OBD2.
Yes. We actually have a saying here in the United States, maybe you guys have heard it, an apples to apples comparison. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're not comparing apples to oranges, because OBD2 data, believe it or not, is mandated. It's come to be. There's laws and rules they have to follow. For instance, they can't substitute values. If I unplug, for instance, an intake air temperature sensor on a vehicle, nowadays, lots of manufacturers have the ability to say, well, you know what, my transmission fluid temperature reads 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and my coolant temperature reads 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And I know the intake air temperature sensor is not reporting, but I could pretty much sum it up that it's probably about 50 degrees. So it will substitute a value, and it might put 50 degrees on your data pad, even though it's unplugged. Whereas on the OBD2 side, you're not allowed to substitute a value. It's against the law. So when I unplug it, it might read, something close to 5 volts might be minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit here in the United States. So that's just one example. Let me give you another one. This will probably ring true for you guys more readily. How many of us are looking at air fuel ratio sensor data, right? We see that all the time. Everybody wants to look at the voltage or the amperage, and a perfectly operating Subaru might reflect an air fuel ratio sensor voltage of 1.55 volts, where a Toyota operating in the same condition might say 3.33 volts, and a Honda might read 2.2 volts. They're all showing the same thing. You know what I do? I go into the OBD2 side and I just look at lambda. I know lambda 1.0 is perfect stoichiometric ratio, no matter what fuel, diesel, methanol, gasoline, liquid propane, none of that matters. 1.0 is stoichiometry. Anything above 1.0 represents a excessive air factor or lean condition, and anything below 1.0 is rich. So no matter what car I'm working on, if I look at OBD2, I can find that data. Now, it might not be called lambda. It might be called air fuel ratio or equivalence ratio, but it is the same thing.
And it's displayed in the same value. So it's going to be a 1 or a 0.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
So, and the same, like I think, Costa, we were talking about this last night with the car that you've got, just with OBD2, I believe we can get some good rules of thumb. Looking at, 1 gram per second per liter of a naturally aspirated motor on air fuel ratio. And you're going to see it in OBD2, you're going to see it as grams per second. I don't know what you guys use. I'm assuming you still use grams per second over there. Not liters per hour, and every car you look at, it's always going to have grams per second. So when you're looking at it in OBD2, so you can be looking at a VW over here. That's a 2-liter motor that should be getting an idle 2 grams per second, and you can have a Subaru over here with exactly the same size motor should be getting 2 grams per second.
Like you said, it's an air pump.
Yeah. And it just was a light bulb moment for me to go, we don't harness the power of OBD2 diagnostics in Australia at all to its potential. And I think the guys get really confused because they go from, like you said, exactly that with an air fuel ratio sensor. You're going, well, what's normal? What's standard? And I think as mechanics, we're really good at finding that old game on Sesame Street or whatever it was, pick out the thing that's different. You know what I mean? Like, it's like we're really good at finding the thing that's not right, but we're not always good at knowing, if you're working on one manufacturer, that's fine. You can sort of pick those things up. But when you're working on multiple manufacturers, it's really, really hard. And you're saying you can read about that and you can find the information. We've found it over the last few years, very, very difficult to get access to that information.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Right.
And so if I can perform data analysis using the data that I used on the last 10 cars I worked on, at some point it's going to become familiar.
Yes.
Familiarity is king.
Well, that leads me to say next year, guys, Brandon's going to do some training for us online on the Garage Network. It'll be late February. Costa will announce the dates in a minute. But Brandon, can you give us an idea on what your training program?
You're meant to be a big build-up and a big suspense and surprise, and you can't just slide that in there, mate.
I'm just...
I'd fireworks that to go off. I'd party poppers, the whole thing, and just slid it in there. Great. Obviously, I would have to return a box of party poppers. Thanks.
Well,
we can do it again.
Yeah.
The class revolves around everything we've been talking about this last, what are we, about an hour now? Excuse me. The basics. So I begin talking about how we started off with vehicles running down the road, gasoline, internal combustion engines, using a carburetor, a way to mix the air and the fuel at a certain ratio so it operates under all conditions properly. But of course, emission standards grew more stringent and we had to have better control. So this is how we transitioned to this big scary thing called fuel injection. Now, many technicians, even the really experienced ones, don't really understand how fuel injection systems work. And when I say understand, I mean that getting the fuel to the cylinder is the easy part. It's weighing the air properly so we can get the fuel in the right ratio to the cylinder. And that involves some calculation. So I go into the inputs discussing how intake air temperature affects how much air we can get into the cylinder. The different states of enrichment that all computers use to propel the vehicle down the road under all operating conditions. And I eventually get into the feedback system, talking about fuel trim, what it truly means, and how we can reflect upon it to gain a diagnostic direction. And here's what the goal is, guys. By the end of the class, when we start talking about a live case study, the guys who know nothing about fuel injection should be able to diagnose the car using OBD2 data that I've captured from my own vehicle. Guys, I broke my vehicle 5 or 6 different ways, but it has the same exact symptom: low power. You step on the accelerator and it doesn't want to go. And I'm going to tell you, I pinched off a fuel line to create a restriction. I put air around a mass airflow sensor so it wasn't weighed properly. I created a vacuum leak. I plugged the exhaust, and I wrapped a wet beach towel around my air filter so it couldn't get any. It was a restriction on the intake side. And I also created a voltage drop going to my fuel pump. The end result is each time the car fell on its face, it's going to be up to you guys to read the data that I put on the screen, graphed data, and we're going to discuss it. It's going to be a very interactive class, and hopefully we can turn the microphones on and everybody chimes in because we're going to learn together. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, great. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks. Me too.
So fireworks now, Costa. You're going to announce.
Yeah. So pretty much what we're planning, and look, I mean, depending obviously on a few things, but we're pretty on agreement with the dates. So we're thinking February 23rd and 24th. So the plan would be to run it over 2 dates. Please correct me if I'm saying the wrong thing, Brandon. Over 2 days, 2 hours per day, so 4 hours in total, roughly.
Yep.
So that's sort of the plan.
Right.
Yeah. So content-wise, we have 4 hours worth of training, split over 2 days, because obviously it's going to be online delivered. So, having everyone sit there for 4 hours straight does get a bit hard. So that's sort of the plan. 2 days back to back, 23rd to 24th. We'll do it at a reasonable hour, try and get both East Coast and West Coast available for both sides of the country. which may mean that Brandon's stuck getting up super early. Or
I'll do it for you guys.
we'll send you a
Sure.
coffee over. How's that? We'll send you a Starbucks voucher.
Awesome. That sounds great.
A case of Boss coffee or something like that.
Yeah.
I want to throw it in there. If you gentlemen and ladies, I'm not sure who's going to be part of the group. If you have microphone capabilities, great. If you don't, and you can get maybe a plug-in mic from maybe your iPhone or something like that, where we can, because I'd love to be able to interact with everybody. And it's very difficult to monitor chat and answer questions dynamically, while we're trying to conduct a class. It would take way too long. So my goal was to have everybody's microphones active so we can talk. And I've done this many times and with 30, 40 technicians, and it works very well.
Cool. Yeah, it's super exciting. I think you were definitely one of the guys that have come up, and we asked a few guys on the network, who would you like to see training? Your name always comes up every time. So I think it's going to be, look, if you didn't know, you have quite a good following here in Australia. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a definitely exciting time.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
I'm honored.
it's really good. It's really, really good training. So.
And we'll probably add as well. So in that training, you do have an ebook as well.
I do.
Which will complement, which complements that training a little bit, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And so it's still in the works, and it should be done very, very shortly, like within a week or so. So, we'll have.
So what we're going to do is we will, as part of that training, you will get a copy of Brandon's ebook included in the price that will get emailed to you.
Yeah.
And you'll have Brandon's ebook and do the 4 hours of training. So,
and I got to tell you guys, I always make myself available. I'm very active on Facebook, and Facebook Messenger works very well. So anybody, feel free to contact me anytime. And if we have to have a conversation, the phone feature works very well on Facebook Messenger as well.
So what I've done, I've just posted your personal contact number live. Everyone can just call you. And I've wrote call anytime. It's all good. I will pick up. Yep. Excellent.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There's a couple of practical jokers down here, mate. You got to be careful.
Someone we won't be giving that number.
Someone might put you on some dating website or something like that. So
well, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, mate. Are you the guy selling that crocodile?
You got 3 kangaroos for sale?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. No, I'm really looking forward to it. I've been wanting to do stuff like this for quite some time, and trying to work out how to do it, and finding the right people to do it in person to do it that was my aim, and that's why we reached out. So really,
I really appreciate it. I'm very honored, honestly. Thank you both.
No, thank you. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Of course.
Don't forget to join our private Facebook page if you are an automotive technician, and also subscribe to our YouTube and our podcast channel. They are all called The Garage Network. Thanks, guys, and see you next time.